One of the biggest reasons people struggle to make decisions is because of their over reliance on their logic. And here's why. Logical mind is built on past experiences and existing knowledge. It can only pull from what you already know, not from that infinite field of possibilities, not from what's truly possible. Logical mind craves predictability and familiar, which takes away from you the ability to making life-changing choices, even though the choices you have to make because those are the right choices for you. Also, it only operates 5% of our brain capacity, which leaves 95% of our creative, intuitive power completely untapped. A few years ago, I was in Serbia getting ready to speak at an event on a topic of intuitive decision making. And I had like a couple of hours to spare, half a day actually to spare. So I decided to spend some time exploring the city. And someone in a hotel suggested to have a look at this church, which was like literally on the outskirts of the city, about an hour of walk from where I was. And it was a super hot, sunny days. There was lots of shops and parks and so many things to do. Honestly, it like made no logical sense as to why I should go to the church, like another church. I mean, I've already been to the Vatican. That's like king of all the churches, right? But something was pulling me there. So I decided to try that pool, and I went. After getting lost like number of times, all sweaty and wondering why the heck I was actually doing that, I finally got there. And the church was really pretty, but like nothing life changing, nothing like I haven't seen before. So I walked inside the church and then I saw two empty chairs. And as I was completely shattered, I sat down and I leaned over like to get a bottle of water from my bag. And as I was having a sip of water, I felt like somebody sat down on the chair next to me. And when I turned around, this woman was next to me. She started speaking to her husband in English. So it was the first time in 2 days that I've been there that I actually heard people speak English. So we started chatting and turned out they were also from UK touring, doing the tour of Balkans. They asked me what I was doing in Belgrade, and I told them that I was speaking at an event, and the topic was intuitive decision making. And that's when it got really interesting. So her husband, who was probably, I would say, like they're like in the mid 70s, he told me that he used to be an investment banker and clearly very successful because nowadays they spend most of the year traveling like to most exotic places all over the world. So back in the days, he used to work with CEOs, execs of like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and other global companies. And he said that in his career, he saw so many people losing millions simply because of their over reliance on their logic. He also said that, while data analysis, the logical mind are very important, but when it comes to big decisions, and especially when it comes to taking risk and trying to predict how things go, that's where intuition is priceless. So as he finished speaking, then his wife kind of said she was one of the top women in UK to get an engineering degree. And over the years, she led many teams of engineers. And one of her biggest challenges was to get her people to start trusting themselves, to start making decisions, because a lot of them were afraid to fail, afraid to make decisions. So I found this experience really fascinating because here I was at their like completely random church in the outskirts of Belgrade, where I wasn't even meant to be, talking on a very topic I was actually going to speak on later that evening. Talk about divine confirmation, right? So let's go back to logic. When is logic actually enough for us to make decisions? Well, logic is perfect for decisions that are based on clear cut data, when you've got past experiences, proven formulas, doing things like budgeting, analyzing business data, buying cars, stopping at the red lights. So things you have done or you've got an experience of doing. But when you're like literally stepping into realm of unknown, when there is no solid proof, when there is no past experiences, when decisions are centered around people, things like hiring new team members, starting a business, ending a relationship, starting a relationship, moving across the world, logic can only take you so far. Because again, logical mind is rooted in the past. It doesn't care about the present moment and has got no clue about what's going to happen. It does not thrive in ambiguity and unpredictability. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, spiraling in overthinking, that analysis paralysis, and endless second guesses, because they try to force logical answers for something that logic actually isn't even equipped to handle. And at times like this, to make the most effective decisions, we've got to learn how to go beyond our logic and tap into our intuition. So, Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes, he once said, "Intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and a rational mind is a faithful servant. We created a society that honors a servant and forgotten a gift." So, what exactly is an intuitive mind? What is intuition? So, firstly, to understand exactly what intuition is, we've got to understand how our mind works. And it's made up of our conscious mind and subconscious. So, the conscious mind, that's where logic lives. It operates only about 5%, 3 to 5% of our capacity, analyzing 40 to 50 bits per second. 40 to 50 bits. While our subconscious mind is like a powerhouse that runs 95% of our emotions, decisions, actions, behavior, and it processes 11 million bits per second, 40 to 50 versus 11 million. So intuition then acts like a bridge. It pulls that massive pool of information from our subconscious mind and it brings into our conscious awareness. And that's why when you know how to tap into subconscious mind, those decisions feel instant, they feel natural without us needing to obsess over pros and cons and analyze and second guess. And just like any muscle, intuition can be strengthened. And I promise you, when you strengthen your intuitive muscle, making decisions becomes so much easier and faster and a lot less stressful because you find yourself breaking free from the sticky places where you once felt stuck. And this exhausting habit, because let's admit it, it's overthinking is exhausting, that will just go away. So instead of spiraling into this needing needless information, data analysis to move forward, you're going to start trusting that quiet, that powerful voice, that voice that comes from within, that voice that is your reliable compass that always guides you towards the right choice with ease and flow and more confidence. And the stronger the intuition becomes, the more naturally we're going to start navigating the challenges, opportunities, being open to explore new directions without getting trapped in analysis paralysis. So the question is, how do we build this intuitive muscle? And the answer might be quite counterintuitive, especially if you've never done it before, because most of us were raised to believe that doing more, working harder, thinking more, reading more, making longer to-do lists is what we need to succeed. But when it comes to intuition, the opposite is true. Doing less is the key. We've got to learn to slow down. Because here's the thing, when we physically slow down, energetically we speed up, and energy is our highest currency. So when our energy is high, we naturally start accessing higher level quality thoughts. When we have higher level quality thoughts, we make better decisions, and ultimately we get better results, better outcomes. You know, back when I was a computer programmer, I remember a number of times I would write like a piece of code that will get stuck in an infinite loop, or like a workflow that keeps on like firing emails. And I'm like, "Ah, I don't know how to stop it." And then I would just like pull the code apart, pull the workflow apart, redo it, and just something is not going to stick. Eventually, like a few times I remember I would just give up. I'll go home feeling so frustrated. And then I have a glass of wine and I chill. I'm like, "Ooh, that's an idea I haven't thought of." And next day, I go back to the office, I try that idea, and bingo, it's exactly what was needed. Maybe something like that also happened to you when you configure things out, then you take your attention of the problem and you find a solution. So what happened there? I wasn't working harder. All I did, I was stepping into high level of awareness. I was allowing my intuition to connect the dots. I just relaxed this logical mind, and the answers were already within me. And the thing about intuition, often it doesn't speak to us in spreadsheets or logics. It speaks in feelings, in nudges, in whispers, and gut instincts. Sometimes it can actually speak to you in a language or in a code, but sometimes it will tell you to call a certain person, pick up a random book, or maybe go for a walk in like pouring rain. And when that happens, you've got to trust it, even if it makes no logical sense. Because when you start trusting those tiny nudges and whispers, you start opening yourselves up to opportunities and breakthroughs that your logical minds could not access. Because remember, again, when you physically slow down, energetically you speed up. And when you speed up energetically, you unlock higher quality thoughts that naturally lead to higher quality decisions and better outcomes. So let's make it practical. How do we do this? So here's my suggestion: set aside 5 minutes, maybe a few times a day. Pause, breathe, and listen, especially when you're stuck in overthinking, when you're looking for clarity. Instead of doing more research, looking for answers, using more brain power, get still. Because most likely the answers you're searching are already within you, but you've got to get quiet to hear them. So maybe just for today, give yourself permission to stop searching for any answers outside yourself. Get quiet. Reconnect with a part of yourself that already knows the way forward, that has clarity. That's part of you that isn't confused or lost or overwhelmed, because that part of you already exists. And all you've got to do is just tune into it. So happy tuning, and I will see you in the next video.